Good day, everyone. Today we're going to look at 3 suggestions that would make Sword of Convallaria really cool, and I'm going to jump straight into the first one, which is an auto battling system where your units can only fight on auto mode. So you have no direct control over your units. You just have to prepare them, select them before the battle, and once the battle starts, it's up to them. They have to win the mission on them by themselves. And I think this will create a really cool, different experience of the game, allowing your units to just fight on auto without you controlling them. And you could do this you can go so much. That's it in a nutshell. But you can go into so much more depth. You could do it in an event system where you have a certain number of missions, and you have to clear those missions only on auto mode. You could have conditions where you can only use certain types of units, or maybe you only want to bring breaker units because there's a whole lot of defenders on the map, or any kind of thing like that. You could even have a stamina system like universal derivation, so that you don't just send the same units out on auto every time. But it really creates a different playing experience for the player, and allowing you to sort of build your team for optimizing them for auto mode. In this game, you can build your unit in a number of ways, like for PvP or PvE, etc. But in this way, you would really focus on an auto build, and the game is going to introduce presets for your armor, etc., which would add to that. It would help it even more, allowing you to create a preset for auto mode. And even you could create a preset for unit skills, etc. Not just for their items, which would also help that. And yeah, I just feel like you could really enjoy the game in a different way, where it's like, okay guys, it's up to you now. And it's kind of like FIFA versus Football Manager. So in FIFA, you directly control each player. So basically, you're controlling the outcome of the game. Whereas in Football Manager, you prepare your team to the best of your ability, and once the game starts, it's out of your hands. You're just a spectator, and it's up to your team to succeed in the mission. And that creates a completely different playing experience for you. It means you have to now trust your units, you have to get frustrated in your units. It's just an exciting experience to be a spectator of what's happening. And you could take it further if you want to. Again, so you could even add a sort of AI system in the beginning of the game where you can select a defensive mode. So you want your units to prioritize being defensive, so they will group together more often instead of running out on their own. They will focus on defensive skills, support skills, staying alive. Or you could select, I want my units to fight in offensive mode, where they sprint out as fast as they can, use their highest damaging skills, use the most amount of energy. You know, just a basic AI command system like that. It doesn't have to be in-depth, crazy AI. You could go deeper and make a really interesting game like that as well. But there's just so much you can do with that. And again, it creates a new experience. I think that would be really cool. And it could just be an event, events. For my second suggestion, I mentioned this before in a previous video, but Sword of Convallaria, the leadership auras are a really great feature in this game. It's done very well. And the only problem with it is I feel like it's underutilized. So players are not usually consciously thinking about leadership auras, like, hey, I have a Karis with a superior leadership aura for Papal units, and I want to build a Papal States team all around Karis. We're not usually thinking like that. Usually we'll just pick our strongest units, or the most strongest units in the game. You would focus on the tier lists, right? And just pick those units and let that be your regular team, your default team you always use. But we're not consciously thinking, hey, let me build a Papal team or an area team or a union team, or at least most of us, we're not thinking like that. We just want to put our best units out there. So I feel like the game needs to incentivize utilizing this feature more by giving it a buff. It doesn't have to be a direct buff. It can be an indirect buff. Again, you can use an event where just during that event, leadership auras are 3 times more effective, for example. That would mean that I would then send out a team built around Karis with only Papal States units, instead of, you know, like picking Karis and whatever, and then bringing an August into here, for example, because August is stronger than the other units that I have at my disposal, or a Coco, whatever. That would just create so many, again, different experiences, different ways of playing the game, different ways of building different teams, which just adds to the game. And you could take it even further by adding another buff if all of your units are from Papal States. So in this game you can mix different categories. You can mix a Papal States team and then add a Union unit or whatever. But let's say, for example, you only have Papal State units in your team, then you can add an extra buff onto your team for each unit. That would incentivize the player to really stick to just Papal States units. And then I wouldn't want to bring in a Convallaria, even though he's like really strong. I wouldn't want to bring him into the team, even though he's stronger than all the other units, because he would negate that bonus that we get for all Papal State units. So that's another thing you could do. And really create fun ways of us playing the game, creating a Papal States team, a Union team. You could create a team around Augusts, a Discipline team. So I'm sorry, a Kambe. So you'll say, hey, and now I want to build a team around a Kambe. What do we have here? Then you'll start actively actually looking what leadership auras are going on here. Discipline units, yeah, let me get discipline units around a Kambe, and build a really strong team around him that's just discipline. Because this team would outweigh even your strongest units if they have extra buffs, etc. Or, hey, let me get my Nono Will out. Now I want to build a team around aggression, you know? So, just another way to make it even better, and a new experience again for the game. So, for my third point, it has to do with the game's quality of life. And Sword of Convallaria is a very dialogue intensive game, which is cool. No problem with that. But the problem is with the quality of life. Like, we are faced with constant dialogue and repetitive dialogue and nonsensical dialogue that just doesn't mean anything. So we see the same scenes over and over. Even if you watched once, you have to see it again over and over again. There's a simple solution for this. Just create a settings where you can tick skip scenes that I've already seen. Or you could tick it again, say don't skip scenes that I've already seen. But for us to constantly have to cycle over this over and over and over, and constantly have to skip, so the skip is put all the way in the corner there, and we have to reach for the skip button over there, and the skip button is even smaller on the phone. You have to click and then click again, and then click again. And I know it seems like I'm just moaning, but we're playing hundreds of missions, thousands of missions, and it's repetitive over and over and over again, and repetition, and that causes repetitive strain injuries, RSI, and it's just tedious for the player as well, for his experience. So it's just totally disrespectful to our time and our energy that we have to constantly do all of this skipping through these dialogues. And I know maybe you're young and you're like, this doesn't matter, I don't care. Like, but if you're the younger you are, the more important it is, because it means you'll be gaming for a longer time. So by the time you reach your 30s, you may get a repetitive strain injury that you have to sit with. And so, like, these things, the game developers have to take into consideration and protect the players. Because yes, you need to look out for yourself and in these ways so that you can prevent getting those kinds of problems down the line. But it's not just the Sword of Convallaria issue, it's just gaming industry in general is very behind on player welfare, looking out for the players, their health, and their time is very important. So this is a disrespect to our time and our energy that we have to constantly cycle through these dialogues. And then we'll get into the battle. And then as soon as we start the battle, there's more dialogue. And we've seen this 100 times already. So now I have to reach again here, click. Oh, do you want to confirm? Yes, I do want to confirm. Of course. And then it goes on over and over. And then there will come another one during the battle later. And it's just really, really tedious. So yeah, that's something that has to be worked out of the game, just to respect the player's time and their energy. So yeah, that's all my suggestions for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions of your own, drop it in the comments for everyone to see. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying the game. It is really it's looking good at the moment. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and take care of yourself.